So hi, good evening everyone. This is Dr. Vibha Hans in front of you all, and we are starting with our IELTS preparation session for today. So we'll just wait for maybe 2 minutes so that our session gets streamed. Alright, so let's crack it. This is our tagline, which reflects our sincerity and our enthusiasm towards our goal, so that we all together, working together with the Unacademy team. So let's work together as a team and work hard and sincerely and achieve our goal. And the goal here is to ace the IELTS exam with a wonderful score, with a wonderful great score, so that, acing it in the single attempt. This should be our target. So good evening everyone, this is Dr. Vibha Hans and I'm in front of you all. Welcome to the YouTube channel of Unacademy. We are here to talk about, share our IELTS knowledge. So I'll try to simplify the things. I'll try to make the entire concept very simple so that it becomes easy for all of you to grasp it, right? So I am anyways open with my channel on the phone as well. In case you have any comments, you can just post it here and I can be answering it side by side, right? So just to begin with, I'd like to give a small introduction for myself. I'm Dr. Vibha Hans. I'm a dentist by profession, but an IELTS tutor by passion, and I have been with this passion of mine for quite some time. And the good part of it is that all the students, whatever I've got students from all over the globe, and I was lucky enough, to get wonderful students who were very sincere with me, and we could come up to the same level, and we could have the same quotient. And all of my students, they targeted whatever we had to, and they achieved a wonderful score in a single go. So this is what is my aim for today as well here on this section. So I would also like to talk about Unacademy. This is a wonderful platform, for all of us, which have actually gathered all of us together. So they are trying to make things very easy for us, and they are trying to simplify the things. Their main aim is so that they deliver you the best, and things become very simple for you, and you ace the exam wonderfully, right? So if I would just like to compare, we have this session is what we call as a special sessions, special classes. So this special class is absolutely free for all of you. So this is just to give, this is sort of a demo session. You can see for all of those who are attending the session, this is like a demo session. You attend this, you see that are you comfortable with this session. In case you are, I would suggest you to get enrolled with us in the Unacademy team, because these are just a demo sessions we're trying to give you as of now. But when you get enrolled with us, you are live with us, you can have an access to our live sessions. These live sessions actually talk about the IELTS exam in detail, discussing every module of the exam, right? So this comes out to be very interactive session, because I have had wonderful audience with me in my live sessions, and they have taken the exams and they're very happy, although they are waiting for the results. But yes, the sessions come out to be very interactive. The other benefit I would like to talk about this is, if you enroll here with the Unacademy team, so this is one of our referral codes. This is my referral code here. Let me just take the pen. I think it's not working here. Yes. So Dr. Vibha Hans, this is my referral code. In case you subscribe to Unacademy team using this referral code, you will be getting a 10% discount on the subscription fees, right? Now, adding something more to it, I would like to say, whenever we just go to some academy or institute, we have to pay no less than 8,000 or 10,000 rupees, right, per month. But here at Unacademy, they are actually charging you very, very minimal. It's around, I think, 2,700 rupees per month if you enroll. And if you use this referral code, Dr. Vibha Hans, you still get a 10% discount on that. So it comes to be somewhere 2,500 or 2,400, something like that. So isn't this a wonderful package for you all, right? So the other advantage I would also like to add here is, like, if you enroll with Unacademy using my referral code, so it's not that you can have an access only to my live sessions. You have the liberty to attend live sessions from all of the educators, and trust me, all of them are top educators, and you can just attend your lessons as per your own convenience. It's a virtual academy, so we do not have any foundation, any limitation of the time, any limitation of the place. We could be anywhere, but one thing, yes, we should have a good internet connection to have an access to it, right? The other circumstance, like when you are too tied up with something, some urgent piece of work, and you are not able to attend that live session, so these sessions are recorded. So you can go back to the same to the same educator where you've been taking classes, and you can attend that live session because it is recorded on the platform. So you can still, without taking any loss, you can still have an access to those lessons, right? So hi, I can see lots of messages and people joining in. The question is, how can I prepare task 1 in 10 days as well? Are you talking about academic task? So this is what we are talking today, and definitely we can work on it. All right. The other question is, what types of languages are used in pie chart? We'll discuss. Apart from this, today I'll be talking only on the overview and strategy, but yes, I have another lesson, another special class, which wherein we'll be discussing some examples. I can pick up pie chart as you have asked me here, so you can just keep a check on it. All right. Okay. Please raise your voice a bit. Okay. Can you hear me now? Is it okay? Am I audible now? All right. How can I improve sentence structure in writing? Yes, practice is the key. Once you keep on doing it, you are in touch with a live educator. So you can be posting your comments in the comment section, and we can be correcting you side by side, and that's how you prepare and learn and improve, right? How can I write, compare and contrast structure well in meaning? We'll all discuss here. So starting with the session for today, the today's session we have. Hi, can you all hear me now? Am I audible before I start the session? Because I can see a comment written here. Please raise your voice a bit. So is it clear now? All right. So the topic for today is IELTS Academic Writing Task 1 Overview and Strategy, right? So as we all know, there are 4 modules for IELTS exam. That's speaking, listening, reading and writing. So for today we'll be talking about writing task 1. In writing, that's a 60-minute exam, and we have 2 sections to it. That's writing task 1 and writing task 2. Writing task 2 is the essay, and writing task 1 is different for the general training and the academic training. So here in this session we'll talk about the academic training, what all it is. So the very first slide I would like to talk about here is, please don't panic, right? Because this is one thing which actually gets your score down. I'm pretty sure that every one of us has wonderful knowledge of English, has a good control over the language, but only a little bit of polishing has to be done, I think, for all of us. So this is what we are going to do here. we should, first thing, we should have, we should know how to manage our stress levels. There are various ways, some people take a sip of water, some people take a small walk, some people they apply the pause therapy, as in just giving pause to everything for some time, right? So when we are under pressure, what happens is our score comes, we are not able to express properly what we actually think, what we are actually, which we have expertise for, right? So if we are relaxed, if we are totally pressure free, stress free, we are definitely going to give our best in the exam. And this is how we raise our scores. So when something new comes in front of us, absolutely, I totally agree, it's a panic struck situation, but this is the area where I would say practice plays a very important role. So when you practice, you get comfortable with that particular task. So that task no more gives you any pressure, no more gives you any stress. So particularly, in the writing exam, there is a rush of adrenaline in the body, but the expertise is how to keep that in check. So I'm sure the very first thing we should be practicing is managing the stress levels, right? Right. The other thing I would like to talk about is time management. IELTS exam completely is controlled by time. So we have a digital clock in front of us in the exam, which keeps on ticking and probably adds stress to some people. Yes, it does. But we have to be very careful in managing that. Whatever time we have decided for task 1, we should try to complete our task only in that time. Because like if it is 60 minutes for writing module, they are not going to give you even a minute extra. So you have to practice doing task 1 and task 2 in 60 minutes. So this is how we divide the time. We'll talk about in the coming slides. Yeah, that's the, let's talk about the overview. What is the writing task 1? It is basically a pictographic representation or the infographic representation. So it's basically a picture, which you have to interpret, which you have to report. It's basically reporting the information which is given through a graph to you. So it can be a different sort of presentations. It could be a pie chart, it could be a bar chart, it could be a line graph, it could be a diagram, it could be a flow chart. So whatever presentations they have given you, representations, you have to actually report that, right? And the recommended time is 20 minutes. So writing task has to be divided as in 1 and 2. So for 2 we should prepare doing it in 40 minutes, and for 1 we should take only 20 minutes to complete the task. And the word limit we all know is 150 words, right? So I would say like plus minus 5 is okay, not a problem, but try not to go less than 145 words, right? Because in case you are less of words, there is a possibility that your score comes down, right? So the higher limit, the upper limit could be 190, could be 200, could be 210. That's okay, that's not a problem, but your lower limit should not go less than this, right? Then you are absolutely fine to write in 200 words, but there is one disadvantage. When you are writing 200 words, means you will have to take more time for this. So in a way you are losing time. Rather than adding extra words, you can utilize that time in doing the revision of whatever you have written, because revision is very important here. What we do in revision section, we check our spellings, we check the grammar, we check the formation of the words, we check the punctuations, we check if we have used some wrong articles, because once you have done means you have submitted your paper, and that is what you are going to be scored for, right? So utilize that time to do your corrections, to do the revision, So once you correct yourself, you give a better answer to the examiner, right? And this is what helps you to raise your band score. So I think all of us know that writing task 1 constitutes 1/3 of the total writing score. It's taking into consideration the time, it is taking into consideration the score, the marks, right? So please do not take it lightly, although it carries less weightage, but it carries sufficient weightage to raise your band score, right? Any queries? If you have, I have the page open with me. I can be answering the questions side by side. All right. So coming on to the next slide, what is the marking criteria? You know, this is a generalized marking criteria which is considered for your speaking test, which is considered in your writing test. Writing means I'm talking about both 1 and 2. So this is the criteria which assesses your task, right? Although in reading, when we are talking about reading or when we are talking about listening, this is not the criteria. Why? Because we are at the receiving end there. By receiving end, what do I mean? I have to pick up answers with what they are providing me. I am not at the delivering end, I am at the receiving end, right? I mean, if it's a reading test, so it's the passage which is given to us and we have to pick our questions only from that passage. The skill is how we are locating the correct answers. If that's the listening test, our answers will be again 100% in the recording. Nothing is going to come beyond that recording, right? So here we are at the receiving end, so we are not judged on these criteria, whereas when I'm talking about speaking or writing, which I am delivering, right? So there we are at the this is the criteria which is used. So let's talk about what this criteria is. There are 4 criteria and all of them carry equal weightage of 25% each, right? So let's talk about our first criteria, what it is. It talks about task achievement. So what does this imply? The word itself says achievement of the task, right? So achievement of the task means, what is the task? Task is basically a question that is given to you. What the question says, so we have to utilize our time properly in reading the question, in understanding the question, and actually picking up the correct task to answer that particular task, what the examiner demands, what the examiner wants to see in our writing, right? So we should try not to beat about the bush, not to write sentences like which actually do not make any relevance. We should not be using broken sentences. We should be writing all about the task. Yes, something related to the task, like when I'm writing about something, if I'm talking about, say, cuisines, international cuisines, so there is a possibility I talk about cuisines for different countries, right? Or if they're asking me to write about any cuisine of India, for example, and if, for example, just to add to a comparison, I compare the Indian cuisine with the Italian cuisine, that's okay writing. Why? Because my main focus is cuisine itself, right? So that is okay. But if they are asking about cuisines and I talk about the ingredients or the raw materials or the eating styles which is used in, say, Malaysia, so that really doesn't make any sense, right? That's not answering the question which the examiner is asking me. So there, if I do this, if I write like this, I'll be getting a lower score. I'll be coming down on my score, right? So it is all in our hands to write absolutely apt whatever is required out of us to understand the question. For this we will have to utilize some time which is in a phase which is called a planning phase. Whenever we get a question paper in front of us, I would suggest do not immediately pick up your pen and start writing. That is a very wrong technique. Whenever you get a question paper, just relax yourself. You have initial 2 to 3 minutes. Your whole task, this is for 20 minutes. And we'll see how we divide time for each aspect, right? So just take 2 to 3 minutes, relax yourself, read the question properly, and plan what you have to write. Suppose we are talking here about writing task 1 academic, right? They have given us a flow chart which talks about certain steps. So just analyze in your mind what you have to write. Maybe on the question paper itself, just be at the side of your diagram, you can write some keywords. Now, what are the keywords? Key is actually something which unlocks something, right? So here also, these are the words which actually unlock our writing. Means when we have started writing, these keywords are going to help us to not to get diverted. Because generally, this is a human tendency. We start writing something, and by the end, we are at the last line of our writing, we are lost somewhere. We are either here or there. We are not sticking to the task. But these keywords will actually help you to pull you back to the task what is required, right? So whenever you are writing, if you have keywords in front of you, whenever you are writing, just focus yourself there. If you have written, say, 5 keywords, pick up one keyword, write about that. After that, pick up the second keyword, write about that. This is how you will be on the track, right? So this is called task achievement. If you have done that wonderfully, means your 25% is sorted. Correct? Now coming on to the next point, that is coherence and cohesion. What does this talk about? This basically talks about the structure and flow. So what is a structure? Structure, like whatever we are writing, it has the interest. We start with the introduction, then we have a body to it, then we conclude or summarize whatever is it, right? So this is a set pattern. We cannot just immediately start talking about the body paragraph without actually introducing what we are about to write. This introduction paragraph actually plays a very important role in every task, be it writing task 1, be it writing task 2, be it speaking. Your introduction actually gives a clue to the examiner about your way, about your style of writing, right? So there is a set structure which we have to follow, and we'll talk about in our further slides, maybe here or I think it's here in this session only. All right, coming on to cohesion means the sentences which we are using should be interrelated to a sentence before and to a sentence after that. Means everything should actually come in a flow. They should not be broken sentences. It's not that one sentence has no correlation with the other sentence, or first paragraph has no correlation with the second paragraph. That's a wrong technique of writing. So whatever we are writing should be in a flow. Like it should just flow like a story. If we are talking about some, for example, let me take up a basic story. If I'm talking about a thirsty crow, then I'm talking about that crow was actually wandering in the some place to look for water. So he found a pot. So if I talk about he found a pot, why? Because the crow was looking in, roaming here and there for water. Now the crow finds pebbles. So now pebbles has a correlation with a little water in the pot. Whereas if I skip the middle sentence and if I just write the crow was thirsty and I say he found some pebbles, do you think these two sentences make any correlation, make any sense? No, they do not. Unless and until we provide that middle sentence that there was a pot which had a little less water into it and it was difficult for the crow and then he was looking on for pebbles, then it makes a sense. So this is cohesion. The sentences should be connected to each other, right? They should form a wonderful flow. They should give a perfect meaning, right? Where the examiner, like I would say, the examiner doesn't have to use some extra time or extra skills to understand what you have written. It should automatically come, it should come naturally. The other thing is lexical resources. So what is a resource? A resource is something, which is, it's sort of a raw material, right? And lexical is related to language. So lexical resources means what are we using in our writing to make that effective, to make that valuable. So I would say we should be using good vocabulary, we should be using good collocations, we should be using idioms, we should be using what? Yeah, good vocabulary, right? Good grammar, correct form of the tenses. So this is lexical resources. All of these, when they are put together in your writing, definitely implementing at the correct position, not to just use it for the sake of using. They should actually make some sense. So that makes your writing effective and valuable. So when the examiner goes through your writing, the examiner should develop interest. He should be inquisitive to the fact that what is written next. Okay? So, grammatical range and accuracy. What is this? The word again implies, grammatical range. We should use a range of grammar. It should not be like we are using just, for example, if I talk about sentences, there are simple sentences, there are complex sentences, there are compound sentences, there are conditional sentences, there could be active voice, there could be passive voice. So a variety should be used. It's not that all your sentences are simple or all your sentences are complex. No, it should not be like that. Proper connectors should be used. Accuracy, like they should be used accurately. It's not that if you have come across a video which talks about like 20 high-end words to raise your band to score 8 or score 9, right? So means you'll be just cramming, you'll just be mucking up the words and you'll just use it to show that you know the words, but that's going to get a negative impact on you. Why? Because you have learned the word, you know the word, but you do not know the correct implementation of the word, you do not know the correct usage of the word, right? So my point of advice, my tip of advice at this point would be read enough, go through lots of journals, lots of magazines, newspapers, pick up a word and immediately do not open up your Google to see the meaning. When you find a word, for example, you have a word here, right? So read 2 sentences above and 2 sentences below this. Okay? So firstly, try to judge the meaning of the word, guess, right? Then to cross check what you have done is go back to your phones or dictionaries and then see. Once you have an idea of what this word is, try to use that in your daily conversations. If you directly look into your dictionaries or Googles and pick up your correct meaning, I'm sure we are not going to use it. But if we have read some line, we have spent some time, utilized some time, in reading the lines above and below it, and we are guessing the meaning, this will stay for some time in our minds. We will try to use that word whenever required. So if any word is used 3 times or 4 times, there is a high probability that 5th time the word is automatically going to strike when it has to be correctly used, right? So this is grammatical range and accuracy. So these are the 4 criteria. So we have to take care of all of them because all of them carry same weightage. Now, what actually is writing task 1 for academic? It is a pictograph or it could be an infograph. I think the word itself tells what I'm talking about. This is a graph or a picture. Here it's the information which is gathered from the graph, right? So it is basically a report. It's not an essay. If they are talking about, they have given you say a bar chart talking about the population of males and females. So you are going to explain only what is shown in the bar chart. You are not going to write an essay on population. You're not going to write an essay on males. You're not going to write an essay on females, right? So you have to only report. You have to write only what you see. You do not have to use your skills. And that is one purpose why we are attempting writing task 1 later. Whenever we have the question, whenever we have to start writing the exam, we should be always write task 2 first, followed by task 1. Why? Because task 2, here you have to give lots of your thoughts, lots of your knowledge, inference, ideas. So when you are relaxed, utilize your time, right? By chance, if you utilize, like instead of 40 minutes, you take 43 minutes for this, so means you are 3 minutes less in this. Rather than 20 minutes, you will have to spend 17 minutes on this. So, but however, you can still manage to write in 17 minutes. Why? Because you do not have to think any idea. You have to just look at the picture and write whatever you see. Provided that should be the correct form of English, the correct vocabulary should be used, the correct form of sentences should be used. But no ideas are required, no your own information or knowledge is required here, correct? So it's basically a report, it's not an essay. What you have to do is you have to convert in words or sentences. You have to convert whatever you see. You have to convert the picture into your own words or in your own sentences. And what type of words and sentences we have to use, we'll talk about in our session. Don't add your ideas. This is what we talked about. We do not have to add our ideas. We have to only report. Don't change the meaning. So this particularly comes for two things. Firstly, not changing the meaning is like when it is the question which we are paraphrasing. So paraphrasing means we have to change the words, add or delete some of the words, substitute it with other words, reshuffle the position of the words, but the meaning has to be same. We have to write it without changing the meaning. That's called a paraphrasing. We have one session where we'll be discussing paraphrasing in detail with lots and lots and lots of examples. Yes, but for here in this session, I'll just make it short by saying that don't change the meaning when you're paraphrasing the question. Correct? The other place where this point holds true is don't change the meaning means whatever picture they have given it to you, you have to talk only and exactly the same thing what is given in the picture. You do not have to change your meaning, change the meaning of the picture which they have given you, right? The picture has to be standardized, it has to be kept, and everything has to be explained in correlation with that, without adding your ideas, without changing the meaning of that. Correct? Now, what are the different types of pictographs or the infographs which we can get in the exam? They are bar graph or a bar chart, line chart. We'll discuss all of them in the coming slides. It could be a pie chart, it could be a flow chart, a table, a diagram, or a combination, right? So we'll talk about how they are. This is a bar chart. So what is a bar? Bar is basically any rectangular piece, So this is called a bar. These are the different bars which have been shown here, if you can see, right? They are different variables. They're talking about different variables. For example, if I see this blue bar, this talks about tennis. If I talk about this red bar, this talks about swimming. If I talk about this green bar, this talks about running. And this purple or the violet bar talks about gym, right? So the different bars, this is the index, which is given to you. So you will have to analyze in relation to this. Now apart from these bars, there are two axes in a bar chart. This horizontal axis is called the x-axis and this vertical is called the y-axis. So there will be different variables on the x-axis and different variable on the y-axis. For example, if we talk about this talks about this whole block. This talks about nation A. This is nation B, nation C, nation D. So our x-axis is talking about nations, right? And our y-axis is giving us some percentage. This could be percentage of anything, right? So this maybe gives us the percentage of people who are involved in these activities, right? So how will I interpret this? For example, if I talk about nation A, the involvement of tennis is around 11%. Now, had it been exactly 10 or 15, I would have written 10% or 15%, but this is somewhere above 10. I really don't know. It could be 11, it could be 11.5, it could be 12. So rather than writing 11 or 12, because I cannot actually categorize it exactly how much is this. Provided this is on this mark, I could have added that this is 10%. But since this is somewhere above 10, so I will have to use the word approximately 10%, or roughly 10%, or nearly 10%, around 10%. So in writing task 1, we have to get used to these words. Approximately, around, majority, most of it, about 3/4, about 2/3. These are the different terms which we have to get very well versed when we are talking about writing task 1. I do have another session in which we'll be discussing all about this, right? So coming back to the bar chart, we have bars, which are the horizontal blocks which specify some variable. Our x-axis talks about one variable, our y-axis talks about another variable. So when I have to pick up any value for one variable, I will have to go across x-axis and y-axis, and the area where it meets, that will be my value which I'll talk about. Correct? Now how we have to write this, we'll talk about in our subsequent sessions. So this is a line chart. Now what is a line chart or a line graph? This will again have the x-axis and y-axis. Our x-axis here talks about different months, and y-axis gives us some number. And in the index, we can see two different colored lines. One is green and the other is orange. So green talks about the year 2017 and orange talks about year 2018. Correct? So we will have to, for example, if I'm talking about 2017, let me evaluate from here. In the month of January, say if I talk about that this is the production of say rice, and these values are given in tons, right? So for example, I say in January the production of rice was, this is around 150. Okay, it was here. Then by the month of February it stooped down, or it declined readily, or this is called a steep decline. So we will have to use the adjective steep decline from 160, around 160 or 150 to 90. Then it slightly rose here, then gradually. Now this fall is called a gradual. I hope we understand the difference now. What is a steep and what is gradual, right? Steep is a quick fall and gradual is a slow. It's not only related to fall, could be an increase as well. So it's coming here, then it's again dipping down by July, again rises by August, comes down by September, again reaches high somewhere around I think 120 or 130, and by December again comes down. So what sort of a pattern does it follow? Sometimes it's coming down, sometimes going up, down. So this is called a fluctuating pattern, or we can call it an inconsistent pattern. Correct? So this is what it shows if I'm talking about 2017. Now if I talk about 2018, let's see how it goes. It starts from a lower value around say 70, might be 75, 80. So that's why I've used the word around, approximately this. remains stable for the first 2 months, gradually comes down, steep hike, slowly comes down, falls steeply, slightly rise, slightly down, slightly rise, stable. So again, this also follows the fluctuating or the inconsistent pattern. So this is what is called a fluctuating pattern or the inconsistent pattern. So let's see these words, what they're talking. Here we have, how do we write? Okay, this is the highest. If we have to talk about this is the highest. And if I have to talk about this is the lowest. So these are certain features which we have to take care. For example, here we see the pattern, that's a fluctuating pattern, right? Or we could have given a comparison. So these are various features which we'll talk about what we have to write. The other thing is a pie chart. I think I was asked a question something related to pie chart, and that's what types of language are used in pie charts. Okay. So we'll talk in detail for pie charts also when I come up with the examples we have. So let's see what's a pie chart. What is a pie? I think each one of us has heard the word apple pie or banana pie. So this is a portion of the pie, what we just take out from the complete pie for our eating. So these are the different quarters, these are the different portions which signify some variable again. So our question was favorite type of movie. So for example, this yellow portion talks about comedy, means 20% of the people watch comedy movies. So that's the favorite. When I talk about action movies, so 25% of them like the action movies. If I talk about romance, that's 30%. If I talk about drama, that's 5%. If I talk about science fiction, that's 20%, right? So this is what it denotes. 5% means 5% of the entire thing, right? If this is 20%, means 20% of the entire 100%. So we will, what do we pick up here? What is the lowest? Lowest seems to be drama. So this is a significant feature what we can see here. These are the features, these are the points which we have to write in the overview. What is the lowest? What is the lowest here is drama, that's 5%, and highest is 30% for romance. So in our overview, we will write the highest. What do we write in overview? We write the highest. We talk about the lowest. And what else do we see here? Science fiction is 20, this is 20, and this is 25. So this comes in a range of 20 to 25%. So the third thing we can write here is all others fall under a range of 20% to 25%. In a way, we have talked about everything. We have not missed any variable here. We have highlighted the important points. We have highlighted the key points. And what are the key points? The highest and the lowest. Correct? So this is how we have to interpret the pie chart. Now coming on to the next figure, that's a flow chart. Now what is a flow chart? Again, the word talks about what it is. Flow means one thing flows into the other. So how is this represented? These are the arrows. Arrow means this starts from here, comes to the next step. So this step follows this, and these arrows show the direction of movement. For example, if we pick up this example only, suppose we have started from one thing. We are looking for some lost item. We have lost something and we are looking for that. Now, the question comes, did you find it? If I'm looking for something, the next question comes is, did I find that? If yes, I'll stop looking, right? This shows I'll stop looking. If it is no, the next question comes at, do you need it? If I need it, I will again look for the lost item and follow the same pattern. But if I do not need it, I'll definitely stop looking. So these arrows actually give us the direction what the next step has to be. This is what, if you remember, I was talking in the coherence point. All right. So, and the other thing is, when they are writing these words here for us, these actually serve as the best clues for what we have to write. We'll see how this is helpful for us. All right. The other thing is a table. Now, what is a table? A table is something which is divided into something horizontal and something vertical. So these horizontal ones are called rows and the vertical ones are called columns. Correct? So if I have to pick up any variable, for example, the y value of b, I will go here, I will come down here, and this will be my value. I will talk about it. Or again, the similar points, I can talk about the highest, I can talk about the lowest, I can do a comparison. So these are the key features which I can talk about here. Now coming on to the next figure, that's a diagram. Diagram could be a life cycle, right? It's, for example, life cycle of a moth. It could be life cycle of any other insect, or it is talking about any process. Then also it could be a diagram. For example, if I look into this diagram, the first step is raw material extraction, right? We are extracting the raw materials. Raw material could be anything, like resources, what I was talking about in my points. From here, once I extract the raw materials, those raw materials will be sent for manufacturing. After manufacturing, they are distributed through trucks and they go to the different stores where they are purchased. After purchasing, they are used and well maintained. Once the thing is not in use anymore, that is disposed of. After disposing of, the recycling is done. So they have actually given you clues here about what you have to write. So whatever you write, whatever sentences you formulate, these words are going to actually help you, right? So you have to follow this path only, right? Like one step flows into the other. It's similar to a flow chart. What type of language used in table and how can I find start and end in the natural process? See, if I'm talking about the start and the end, I think the picture itself denotes what can be the starting point. Definitely the starting point has to be extracting some raw material, right? If I have the raw material, then only I can make the product out of it. Or if you want to start from here, recycling also, that we extract the raw materials from the recycling thing, that is also fine. You are not going to lose any marks for that, as long as you are covering all the points. You are not missing on to any points. I hope I'm clear. Yeah. So the other question was what types of language is used in the table. See, table again we'll talk about. This table illustrates, I'll talk about those in my coming slides, how you have to write sentences. So it's basically more for all the pictures, it's more or less the same thing. You have to just know how you have to interpret, you have to report the information whatever is given to you, right? We'll talk about the sentences in the coming slides. Now the other option could be a combination. Combination means it could be a combination of a line graph and a pie chart, right? It could be a combination of a diagram and a bar chart. It could be a combination of a table and a pie chart. So all those options what we discussed, any permutations and combinations related to that can be a part of the combination task. Now with combination task, there is one problem which generally comes over, because for example, it's a table and a pie chart. So here we will have to describe both the things. We will have to talk about table and we will have to talk about the pie chart as well, right? So this is where you will have to practice to use around 150 words, because your word limit might exceed a little bit. That's okay. Why? Because you are talking here about two pictures. One is the table and the other is a pie chart. but please take care of the time, because if you are interpreting two things, you might take a little longer. So please practice combination um, this tasks a lot, because if you are very well in tune with the combination task, then a single interpretation will not be difficult for you at all. How can I write combined charts as well? See, you will have to describe them in a series. For example, they have given you a question where initially they talk about a table, and after that they give you a pie chart, right? So you will have to first talk about table, and then you will have to talk about pie chart, and maybe then if there is something which is relating these two, then you will have to talk about that. Okay? What types of sentence structure is used in diagram? Diagram, definitely you will, that's what I told you, no? They have actually given you the words. You can start by this. We will first extract the, sorry, not we do not have to personalize it. The raw materials are first extracted. After the raw materials are extracted, they are sent for manufacturing into the plants, right? And the manufactured products are distributed to the wholesalers or the retailers through the trucks. So you have to look at the pictures and keep on framing sentences. This is what I said, you know, these are the best clues they have actually given you, these words, and they generally write it with the picture, right? All right, so how do we start writing our task 1? There are basically 3 steps to it, you know. Step 1, 2 and 3. We'll talk about what these steps are. First step is we have to look up what variables are given on the axis, x-axis and y-axis. What variable is given? For example, this is population and here it is nations, right? So you have to understand this. Second thing is units. So you have to see that population is expressed in like 10,000 or it's in percentage, how it's represented. So you have to be very careful about the axis, I mean variables, and the units. The other thing is grouping the data. Grouping the data as in, as I was talking, you know, picking up the key features like highest, lowest, and fluctuating pattern, inconsistent pattern. So you have to select the main feature. You have to identify and select the main features. What could be the features? Range, pattern, trend. Exception means anomaly, like all the nations show an increase in the population, whereas this nation shows a decrease or a decline in population. So this is the exception, anomaly. Peak, valley, plateau. Plateau is something we are talking about flat. Valley is something like this. It's slight, shows a slight dip. So that's called a valley. So we have to use these words in our writings. As you have asked me, no, how can I write overview for these type of combined charts? So this is what you have to write in the overview. This is what you have to write. This is the highest or this is the lowest. This is what is needed. The next point is writing the essay. Like essay, I do not mean we are describing the thing. Writing the essay means I will start writing whatever I see. I will start reporting, I would say. Correct? So this is called. Now there are 2 formats which we have to follow when we are writing. There are 2 approaches. The first is definitely introduction is common to both. We have to write introduction. And what do we write in introduction? First sentence has to be the paraphrase of the question, and the second sentence could be the units if it is there. If there are no units, that's okay. Only paraphrasing is sufficient. But if there are some units, please try to write those units in the introduction paragraph. The other thing, one approach talks about, then we talk about body paragraph. Like there are suppose 2 variables, so we talk about one variable in first paragraph, we talk about second variable in second paragraph. But in my body paragraph, my first sentence will be overview, and then I'll talk about the other features of that variable, right? And then we'll conclude it with a summary sentence. So summary sentence will be actually a summary of my body paragraph. I will not be adding any new words, no added information into the summary sentence. It has to be just short and crisp. How can I show band 6 sentence structure and band 7 structure? We'll talk about it. How can I extend sentences in writing task 1? See, I have another session where we'll be discussing the examples. So I think that session will give answer to all of your questions here. Right. So no conclusion. Why? Because in conclusion we are gently adding our knowledge. Right. So it's only summarization. It's no conclusion. The other approach is when I'm starting with the introduction, I make my second paragraph where I talk about a complete overview. Then I have my body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2, means body paragraph 1 talks about first variable and body paragraph 2 talks about second variable. Right? So introduction has to be very short. It has to be only 1 or 2 sentences. As I just talked about, it has to be the paraphrase and the units, and no third sentence is required. If you are writing the third sentence, means you are going way too high. That's not required. And that has to be a paraphrase, which we just talked about. The words, I think I'll answer your question here. What sort of words we have to use? We'll write illustrates. This picture illustrates this. This demonstrates. The pie chart depicts. This diagram shows. Or this table provides the information. Or this table provides the data. This is how we have to start writing. Good. Then we do not have to use any personalized words like I, me, we, like I understand that this happens, or we can see that there is an increase and then there's a decrease. Avoid using these words. I mean, there's no harm, I would say, but they do not actually leave a very good impact because it's not your personalized ideas they're asking. It's the generalized thing which they're asking for. So please avoid using these personalized words like I, me, and we. No opinions and no ideas of your own. It's only the reporting of the information what's given to you. And you should not be spending more than 1 or 2 minutes. Why? Because you are writing only 2 sentences here. Could be a possibility you have to write only 1 sentence where there are no units. So no more than 1 or 2 minutes. Let's see what a paraphrasing of the question is. Yeah. For example, the question talks about the chart shows data about the average length in time in minutes that people of different ages spend in consultation with family doctors in a number of countries. This is just one example. I'm trying to show you what paraphrase means. The chart, I have used the chart as it is. I could have used, if it's a pie chart, I could have used pie chart, or if it was a bar chart, I could have written here a bar chart. Shows data, I have changed it into gives information. About the average length of time in minutes, I have written about the typical time that people of different ages spend in consultation with family doctors. So who are the people who are spending time with doctors? They are called patients. Spend with doctors in a number of countries, in various countries. Now, since it was different ages, I have written here split by age group, right? Now, the other sentence which I could have written is minutes. The time is measured in minutes, right? So this is my second sentence, and that is the end of my introduction. I am not going to take more than 2 minutes in writing this introduction, right? So body paragraph, 1 or 2 paragraphs as required as in according to the variables, or if there are small variables, you can make one solid body paragraph, but then try to make a separate overview paragraph before the body paragraph. Correct? Do not take more than 12 to 15 minutes for this. What you have to write in your body paragraph, you have to explain the trend, pattern, highest, lowest, anomaly, and comparison. This is what we discussed in the examples when we were going through. For example, I write overall. If I write overall, means this is talking about overview. So this is a good word to start when we are writing the overview. Overall, all the channels have increased their popularity over a period of 5 years. However, now, however, this is a connector which I've used for a contrast. I'm talking about an exception here now. However, in terms of X, the number of viewers have decreased drastically. So these are the words which you have to start using. Summary sentence, as I just talked about, has to be only 1 and 2 sentence. Again, not more than 1 to 2 minutes. So net, if I see if I'm using 2 minutes here and 2 minutes for the introduction, that is 4 minutes. And if I'm using 12 to 15 minutes, say 14 minutes, so that's 18 minutes, and I'm left with 2 minutes. So these 2 minutes I have to use for revision. Please try to practice in a way that you have some time to revise. Now what you have to summarize here, you have to summarize the key trend, key exception described in the main body paragraph. You have to summarize only what you have written, and please do not add any figures in the summary sentence, not required. Conclusion is not required. Why? Because there has to be no inference, no predictions, no analysis, and no opinions. It's only a summary sentence which we write in writing task 1. There is no conclusion. We write conclusion in writing task 2, that is the essay. So with this, I conclude my session here, and I would again like to say that if you like the session, if you want to attend my live sessions as well, if you want to have the detailed information, thorough practice of the IELTS, because we all aim to practice you so well that you take the exam and you clear it in the very first attempt. So in case you like that, please subscribe the channel, please subscribe Unacademy using my referral code, that's Dr. Vibha Hans. This is my name. And I have already talked about the various benefits which you can avail once you are on the platform. So I again thank the Unacademy team for getting all of us together, for making a wonderful team for the educators and learners as well, so that we are here to help you the most so that you excel in whatever you are doing. So with this, I conclude my session. Thank you so much, and I think again in another half an hour I have another session where I'll be talking the overview about writing task 2, that's the essay writing. So thank you so much for being there with me. Best of luck for your exam, and happy studying, guys. Thank you so much.